Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode in our Accountant Showcase series. Today, we have joining us Ed Kless, and he's going to be sharing his experience as well as his journey. So, Ed, thank you for taking time out of your schedule today and joining us. So, tell us about yourself and what you're doing these days.
Well, I'm happy to be with you, Chris, and I have the best job in the world. That's what certainly a sage, and that for the following reasons. One, I don't have anybody who reports to me directly. Number two, I'm not responsible for revenue, and number three, and most importantly, I get to work with our partner organizations at Sage, and I have a very broad definition of partner, and that is anyone who is interested in helping us either sell, resell, recommend our software and services to others. And I'm happy to help them make their businesses better. I'm not transactional. I'm not going to be, hey, how can I, what are you going to sell for me this month, this week, this quarter? But more, how can I help you make your business better? Whether it be an accounting firm, a bookkeeping firm, doesn't matter. So,
Love it. Yeah. The solutions and resources out there today are more prevalent than ever, and folks got to be taking advantage of it. Now, I know you're not an accountant per se, but you're in the industry. Can you share kind of how you got to this point? Was this something that's always on your mind, or you kind of fell into the industry, or share that journey?
Sure. Well, one thing, and I learned this from Mark Koziel, who's was with the AICPA and is now with Millennial Global, which is an association of accounting firms. And he was about 10 years ago corrected me and said, Ed, it's not an industry, it's a profession. And he said we should call it a profession, not an industry. And he had some pretty important reasons for that because he thinks that professionals do things differently that industrialists do not. Professionals are responsible not for the accomplishment of tasks per se, but for the achievement of some kind of a goal or a transformation, even better. And I think that that's something that's been a little bit lost in people who come into the profession because it is talked about sometimes as an industry. And I think we'd be better served to use the term profession and what it means to be a professional, a true professional, as David Maister wrote in his book 30 plus years ago. My journey is that I started out on I took two accounting classes, debits by the door in college. But my first job out of college was with a CPA firm on Long Island, where I'm originally from. And I was in their what they called their MAS group, their Management Advisory Services group. And we were doing all kinds of different things, installing networks. I mean, a lot of stuff that we had really no business doing, quite frankly, but we did it anyway. But that was my first taste of working with accountants and working in the accounting profession. I then went on to found an organization that was a reseller of what was back then called Great Plains Software. Great Plains Dynamics is now called Microsoft Dynamics GP, so it's still around. And then 18 years ago, I started working with for Sage in the role that I currently am now. So my journey is not been one that it's carefully mapped out at all. In fact, I'm not quite sure how I got here, but I did. And I do enjoy very much the work that I do with professional organizations. As I said, I like to help them understand that what they're doing is adding and creating value. My personal why is that I believe that entrepreneurs continue the work of creation. And I don't care if you think of creation as an explosion out of nothingness 13.7 billion years ago, or coming out of a garden, or turtles all the way down. That doesn't matter to me, as long as that you recognize that my belief is that entrepreneurs continue that creation. They continue to create new things, and what better way to do it than in the language of business, and that is which of course is accounting. And I think it's important that people understand the language of business.
Mhm. Yeah, no, well said. And over the years, um, the profession, right? Folks look at it and see it as arduous tasks or tax season, overtime, no room for growth or development, and to be doing the same thing. And my God, the industry and the profession as a whole is just so much different than it was years ago, but it's never really been like that in the first place. And so I mean, you took a couple courses, you got into the profession, and now you're helping out, the accounting firms on a day-to-day basis. But the idea here is that there's so much that you can do with an actual, your accounting degree, and not just data entry or not just input or working overtime. I mean, there's so many different opportunities, and firms are moving to that CAS model or advisory model, and need support and assistance for that. And so the question for you is that the profession as a whole over the last, say, 3-4 years, and over the next 3 or 4 years, do you see it really changing as fast as it's been? Do you feel that it'll slow down or
I
provide
don't think it
your,
has a choice but to evolve. I mean, and I think that
yeah,
the real challenge, and this is something that goes to my work that I've done with my friend and co-host on the Soul of Enterprise, which is a podcast and radio show that I do with Ron Baker, who wrote a book called Implementing Value Pricing, and now his latest book, which is called Time's Up, which is about the subscription model. But the cancer of the profession is the timesheet. That is the problem. And yes, we are seeing firms evolve and doing more and more CAS related work, and even in some cases strategy work, which they hadn't done in the past. But they're not evolving past the billable hour and the timesheet. Even those that are not necessarily charging by the hour still require that every professional accounts for every 6 minutes of their day, which is completely ridiculous. And I honestly believe it's one of the reasons why people don't go into the profession, especially in the public sector, to serving as a public accountant, because of that. Who wants to track their day in 6-minute increments? You didn't do it in college, and somehow you got your degree. How did the arguments that I hear from leadership inside organization is how do we know work is getting done if people don't fill out timesheets? And my response is, did you fill out a timesheet in college? If so, how did you know? And there's no response to that. There's no response to that, because you as I said, if you think that what your job is, if it is getting a series of tasks done, then yeah, it's going to be boring and it's going to be repetitive. But if you think that what you do is helping people understand the language of business and being able to create more, so that you can worry about, whether it is your company is creating widgets or whatever, and not have to worry about the accounting piece of it because somebody else has that handled, then you understand that you're in this to serve, to help others. And I think that and then of course the billable hour of course focuses us on the wrong things. It focuses on, and there's no right answer. I do this exercise, Chris, where I'll ask a room full of accountants, how many of you have ever filled out a timesheet? And every hand goes up, right? And then the follow-up question is, and how many of you have ever not put on the timesheet exactly what happened, either too many hours or too few hours? And I usually close my eyes or put my hand over my eyes and say I'm not looking, but I know every hand remains up, because people don't put on their timesheet what actually happened. People put on their timesheet what they think should have happened, or what their boss thinks should have happened, or what the customer thinks should have happened. So it's a bunch of lies,
yeah,
and I think that eats away at people's moral base, to think that what I need to do is I need to put down on the timesheet not what really happened, even though I'm signing a pledge that I am.
Mhm.
And I
It's the
think that
perception of
it's
what could have happened,
it's
what
with the
may have
perception of
happened.
what should have happened, because we only have 50 hours on this engagement budgeted, so therefore it's going to get to 50 hours and it's going to stop, even if I have to work another 50 to make it done.
Yeah, I like how you painted that picture. I think that there's some of our colleagues that do a model where if they get the work done sooner, then they're off and they're still getting paid the same. And if they need more time on it, they're still going to be getting paid the same, right? But it just puts into light that maybe next time this project may need a little bit more support. And then there's also incentives, right? You're not required to work overtime. You're not required to come in on a Saturday. However, if you do, these built-in incentives will kick in for you. And so that right there just makes it a joy, in my opinion, to come to work, right? If you get everything done, heck, you can be off one day a week rather than creating this whole perception of the timesheet. So I absolutely agree. Um, I think the firms need to understand that and reevaluate what they're doing with their clients as well as with their staff. And what easier way to start than with your existing base,
That's
right?
right.
And try things out, but you got to have an open mind for sure.
Yeah, General Eric Sinjecki, who was the chief of staff under the first President Bush and then under Clinton, has a great quote. He says, "If you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what we're seeing in the accounting profession today. It's a drifting into irrelevancy because it's focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah, change is constant. I've had calls where the firm, they've been doing this for 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
45 years, 35 years. And I'm like, all right, why are we having a call today? What happened? I'm like, well, can't find staff. And so at some point in time, it's going to happen. It's just, it's uh, regardless if you're going to hate change or you're going to love change, kind of embrace it because it will happen. And
Mm-hmm.
then in doing that, you have, with an open mind, explore these options of change that have come upon you and see which one makes the most sense. But yeah, you can't fight it or hide from it because it's going to happen.
Well, so one thing, and here's the other thing that I experiment with people on is I go to these conferences where a bunch of accountants, and I'll ask, how are you doing? Here's the response that I get 90% of the time: busy. Not when I ask how are you, the response is not well, not no, but is busy.
Good. All right.
The response is busy, and my immediate reaction to that then is double your price. If you
Yeah.
double your price, you'll be less busy.
Yeah.
Because and here's the question I often ask. If you were to double your price, would you lose half your customers? And most people go, "No, I wouldn't lose half my customers." And I said, "Okay, so here's the thought experiment. If you doubled your price, you would work less and make more." Well, but then we would have fewer customers. Yeah. And explain to me why that's a bad thing.
Exactly. Yeah, we I've always been about working with the right client, not working
Mm-hmm.
with every client. Because you want to work with every client, oh boy, it's going to bite you in the butt at some point. You want to
Right.
work with the right client. And
But
so,
that again is an outgrowth and a manifestation of the billable hour, because if you have
true.
a billable hour target, or even a revenue target that's based on hours, obviously the hours are good until they're not, right? That's the weird thing about billable hours. Hours are good until you go past over budget, and then they're not good anymore. So and that's where, well, is it the right client, is it the wrong client? You can't tell by measuring somebody's number of hours that they serve whether it's a good customer or a bad customer. You can't tell.
So so the profession, we're both in agreement, is evolving and it's going to be changing at a rapid pace. It's going to continue doing this. And so um what are your share with us a tip with the firm over the next few years as far as how to manage all of this change that's coming their way?
Well, let me just continue the theme, and I've beaten it, but I'm going to stick with it because I've ridden it this far. Here's the tip: pick a day to eliminate your timesheet. Pick a day. January 1st, what year? July 1st, what year? April 16th, what year? Pick a day. Put it out there and say, as of this date, we will no longer be tracking time. And then figure it out from there. And I guarantee, I absolutely, I can guarantee this. If you are recruiting and one of your messages to your recruits is, we don't have timesheets in this firm, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to hire people.
Mhm. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Makes it more appealing. Like, what is this firm doing differently? What is this
Hmm.
firm that makes the candidate intrigued for sure?
Yep.
It's not the traditional, accounting ways per se. I like that. Good tip.
There you go.
Besides working and being awesome with accounts on an everyday basis, what does Ed like to do outside of work? What's like Ed like to do for fun?
Well, right now I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, so my fun is helping with their fun. My 17-year-old boy is a competitive baseball player and playing in high
Nice.
school, wants to play in college, and my daughter does a lot of theater. So I spend a lot of my time working with or going to performances, games, etc. So that's that. But I do enjoy it. I live a little bit vicariously through them. So
Sure. Yeah. No, you just got to separate from work. Got to get out. Got to do something. And friends and family is the way to go.
yep.
Um, Ed, thank you for the insight today. I feel like we could keep going on this for a while, but for time's sake, I appreciate your insight today. Folks listening in, thanks for joining. And also, we'll be back soon with another episode. For now, take care. Ed, again, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.